new and regular listeners. This is, as you know, Red Eyes Radio. My name is Henrik Palmgren, and we are going to continue on our theme of the Grace here today. We have author Nigel Kerner with us on the line, who's written Songs of the Grace and Grey Aliens and the Harvesting of Souls. In 1997, he first introduced the notion of aliens known as Greys coming to Earth, explaining that Greys are actually sophisticated biological robots created by an extraterrestrial civilization they have long since outlived. In his new book, Kerner reveals that the Greys are seeking to master death by obtaining something humans possess that they do not. We are talking about the human soul in this case, and through the manipulation of human DNA, these aliens hope to create their own souls and thereby escape the entropic grip of the material universe in favor of the timeless realm of the spirit. Nigel Kerner is a screenwriter, journalist, and author of, as I mentioned, Song of the Grace and Grey Aliens and the Harvesting of Souls. He has a long-standing interest in matters that lie in the interfaces between science, religion, and philosophy, and has a reputation as a radical thinker, priding himself on thinking outside of the box, as it were. He values the privacy of family life and rarely gives interviews, but he's made an exception for us here at Red Eyes Radio today that we are obviously grateful for, and we are of course interested in hearing more about his work and about his thesis that he talks about and discusses in his books. His home is in England, but he enjoys an expatriate life, and he is present working with a team of European volunteers on various charity projects in Asia. I can also mention his website. Simply go to nigelkerner.com. We will obviously have this linked up on Red Eyes Creations as well, so you can click through from our site easily and find Nigel's website. But with that, welcome to Red Eyes Radio, Nigel. Thank you so much for coming on. It's a pleasure to have you here.
It's an absolute pleasure to join you in Europe from balmy breezes here in the Far East. And I hope we'll warm this thing up with a fairly good exchange of words, okay?
Absolutely. It sounds excellent, Nigel. We're very pleased to have you, and we really appreciate you coming on our program. There's obviously so much to talk about and so many things that we want to discuss here today during our time together. But why don't you just tell us a little bit about your background and how long you've been researching the abduction phenomena and this mystery, as it were, almost of the Greys, Nigel?
Yeah, well, nothing really exciting. I'm kind of basically German-British stock, essentially an expatriate background. We are kind of a science-based family. Came in long ago in various parts of the world and settled in one particular place as European immigrants. My great-grandfather was a science teacher that was interested in science and passed down this kind of predilection to my grandfather, who was a trained horologist. Now, that sounds an excruciating word, but it simply means he dealt with science, instrumentation, and anything that kept time. Family business was in this, and it was at one time quite a thriving affair. My father was not a scientist. He was a British naval officer during the war, and he met my mother here in this island of Sri Lanka some years ago, quite a long time ago, and she was the daughter of a British planter here. And so I have a rather, shall we say, extended family setup, and a rather exciting one. Mm-hmm. Now, you don't really want to know all the boring details of my personal life, but I'm married to an English girl living in England. I studied medicine, and, in time, thing didn't work out. I did 4.5 years of medicine, and my wife's side of the family had social complications, which didn't allow me to finish my medical studies. Mm-hmm. However, I kind of drifted into writing, which I really love. And as we went along, of course, I started going to more and more extended associations with writing, and ended up as a freelance writer and journalist, writing films and articles for newspapers and so on. Mm. And during this time, I had no interest whatsoever, I might say, in this UFO phenomenon. I was, however, very interested in matters that bordered on the interface, as you said, between science and religion, and I'm rather allergic, I have to say, to all forms of organized anything basically, but particularly religion. But at the same time, rather awed by the great wisdom that comes to us from all the major philosophical kinds of things, particularly the main religions and so forth. I have nothing against the old chaps who thought it all up, but as I say, I don't like the situation that has occurred since their demise and so forth. My graduate qualification is human behavioral psychology, but and that becomes quite irrelevant in terms of the subject we're going to talk about, I think, tonight.
Well, maybe not. We'll see, huh? We'll see in terms of psychology how this is impacting humanity on a psychological level. But maybe you can talk a little bit about just the aspect then of the grace and ufology. I mean, how do you go from a background like that you just described into this very kind of fringe area of abductions and things like that?
Indeed. It seems a bizarre thing, and it was indeed the same with the actual experience. I have no personal experience with the alien phenomenon as such. I can't say that I have any personal experience with the actual alien phenomenon, but I cannot say the same thing about paranormal activity. Now, I always had a kind of healthy disrespect for anything to do with what was loosely kind of referred to as New Age philosophies, that were the craze in the 60s and 70s. I don't know if you go back that far, Henrik, but I certainly do. And my own family's kind of precision ground interest in science forbade this kind of thing, And then something very interesting happened to kind of turn my whole world upside down and get me sort of thinking a little bit outside the box and a little bit, shall we say, in a more extended stance. And I don't know. I don't know if you don't want, I won't go into this anecdotal thing too much, but basically I had a Swiss friend and I were quite interested in this kind of interface business between life and death. And as young people do, we were talking about this at quite I thought, rather a deep level. And this Swiss chap and I decided to kind of, come to the conclusion that we don't think there is anything past physical life and so forth. But just to explain how the whole thing kind of incidentally happens to you, these things never happen as an appointment sort of thing. They just kind of creep up on you,
Yeah.
And we're sitting there one day and discussing this, and he said, all right, the only way to prove this is that if one of us precedes the other in death, and we come back and we try and make a stir and convince the other that it might exist or not. Just it's kind of jokey thing, And of course, that was it. Many years later, very tragically, my friend died, and many years after that, I must say, something really incredible happened to me. I mean, it's rather comic when I recall it, but it was something that actually was very important in the kind of, if you like, etiology of my thinking about things that are a little bit different from the usual conventional stuff, the day's own trouble, shall we say. And it happened, strangely enough, in my bathroom. I was in the bathroom of my house, and something behind me told me to look behind the door of the bathroom, and I saw this brush lying on the ground. Now, I wasn't in a situation where I could pick the brush up at that moment, but I was watching this thing and thinking to myself, I'll put that back on the cupboard before I go out.